This sandwich tastes so young and impudent.
For over 50 years, people all over the world have been going crazy for what has become a staple item on the McDonald's menu, the Big Mac. Since its inception, the burger has been garnering a repertoire of interesting and sometimes ridiculous trivia. These will make for great talking points for the next time you and your friends hit up the restaurant. So here are the top 10 untold truths about the McDonald's Big Mac. How the Big Mac began.
One trick is to tell them stories that don't go anywhere.
Today, it's impossible to imagine a McDonald's menu without at least some variation of the Big Mac. But surprisingly enough, it hasn't always been there. The fast food chain had been up and running for over 10 years before the burger was officially introduced to the masses. Its creation is credited to Jim Delligatti, who owned a McDonald's in Uniontown, Pennsylvania. During the 1960s, Pittsburgh and its surrounding regions were huge contributors to the world's steel industry, and many men who were employed by the steel mills would stop by the restaurant after working long and exhausting shifts. A lot of these steel workers were regulars, and it wasn't long before Delligatti realized that no regular burger could ever satisfy the appetites they'd built up over hours of intense physical labor.
We work hard, we play hard.
He began to strategize ways to create a cheeseburger that would actually succeed in filling them up. He doubled up the patties, added a third bun, threw in some pickles and onions, and slowly but surely, the Big Mac was born. Anyone who's ever eaten a Big Mac can testify to the fact that Delligatti succeeded in creating a burger filling enough to satisfy even the hungriest of us. The Big Mac was sold in the greater Pittsburgh region starting in 1967, and in 1968, it was introduced into McDonald's all over America. The rest is history.
I go to America!
Home of the Big Mac.
Wendy, I'm home.
Over the years, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania has come to be known by several nicknames. It's been called the Steel City due to its history as one of the largest steel producers in the world, the City of Bridges because it's home to over 400 bridges, and the Burg for obvious reasons. These are just a few of the many nicknames you may have heard people refer to Pittsburgh by. But there's another, lesser-known name that the city was given in celebration of the Big Mac. Uniontown, the birthplace of the Big Mac, is located in the greater Pittsburgh region, and it's safe to say that the city is very proud to be able to take credit for the creation of this famous burger. Thus, in 1992, when the Big Mac celebrated its 25th birthday, Pittsburgh pulled out all the stops.
Happy birthday, dear Stella.
On September 25th, Pittsburgh was renamed Big Mac USA, and for one day, and one day only, the city was known by yet another name. Obviously, and maybe unfortunately, the change couldn't be kept permanently, but it was still a great way to pay tribute to one of America's favorite fast food meals.
Eating a meal, a succulent Chinese meal.
Same McD's restaurant, different McD's burger.
Look at me, I'm saving the earth!
Everyone knows the ingredients to the classic McDonald's Big Mac: sesame seed bun, 2 beef patties, lettuce, onion, pickles, American cheese, and of course, the special sauce.
2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, onion, sesame seed bun.
However, all around the world, you can find many variations of the iconic burger, each with their own unique twist. Many of these were created to accommodate religious dietary restrictions, while others are simply the product of creativity and experimentation. Specific to Alaska is the McKinley Mac, which replaces the traditional 1.6-ounce patties with quarter pounders. In Israel is the kosher Big Mac, which is served without cheese. The Maharaja Mac is sold in Indian McDonald's and uses chicken patties instead of beef. The Mega Mac is an absolute monstrosity containing 4 patties and extra cheese and is sold in many countries, including Canada, China, Pakistan, and South Korea. Along the same vein is the Giga Big Mac, which can be found in Japan and contains 3 times as much meat as the regular Big Mac. That's one way to get your protein in. On the other hand, if you want to tone it down a bit, in New Zealand you can order the Son of Mac, which contains only 1 patty and no center bun.
I hope I don't miss again.
The Big Mac Museum.
You can't go this far and then not go further.
Opened in 2007, the Big Mac Museum can be found in North Huntington, Pennsylvania. The museum was opened by Mike Delligatti, son of Big Mac mastermind Jim Delligatti, and is loaded with historical memorabilia, making it a great place to brush up on your McDonald's trivia.
Who is Andre the Giant?
Screens throughout the museum play vignettes depicting the life of Big Mac creator Jim Delligatti, as well as the history of the restaurant and its corresponding nonprofit, Ronald McDonald House Charities. You'll also find a 14-foot-tall Big Mac statue, which sounds like a pretty good photo opportunity in case you're looking to up your Instagram game. It's also home to a very lifelike bust of Delligatti, which was made as a way of paying homage to the man who brought us the Big Mac. Of course, a McDonald's museum wouldn't be complete without a restaurant. After touring the museum, you and your family will be able to enjoy your Big Macs with newfound appreciation. On top of that, all the kids out there will be thrilled to hear that the restaurant is equipped with a deluxe play place. Next time you're in Pennsylvania, consider adding this one-of-a-kind tourist attraction to your itinerary.
I always order a special meal.
Paying your McDonald's bill. Just like anything else, the price of the Big Mac has inflated over time. When they were first introduced to the public in 1967, they cost just 45 cents, which is crazy to think about. Today, in most Canadian and American McDonald's, you can expect to spend about $5, give or take a few cents, when you buy a Big Mac. This seems pretty reasonable, considering the sheer amount of food you get with each serving. When traveling abroad, you'll see McDonald's restaurants everywhere, and while the golden arches may stay the same, you'll find that there's a definite difference in the pricing. The most expensive Big Mac in the world is sold in Switzerland, which makes sense since the cost of living there is pretty high. If you ever find yourself in a Swiss McD's, you might want to choose something else off the menu, unless you're okay with dropping almost $7 on a burger. Alternatively, load up on the Big Macs when you're in Ukraine, which is home to the world's cheapest Big Mac. They go for less than $2. You can also find cheap Big Macs in places like Russia, Malaysia, and South Africa, where they're sold for around $2.50.
What are your superpowers again?
I'm rich.
Big Mac's biggest fan.
Thank you very much.
You might think you love the Big Mac, but does anyone really love it as much as Donald Gorski? Probably not. The Wisconsin native holds the world record for the most Big Macs eaten by a single person. Guinness World Records officially awarded him his title in 2006, but that didn't slow him down. In May 2018, his total burger count broke 30,000. He accomplished this over several decades, eating an average of 2 Big Macs a day since 1972. It's shocking that he hasn't gotten sick of it, but Gorski claims the burger to be his favorite food and loves it just as much today as he did back in 1972.
I'm big, you know what I mean? And so why not?
He kept track of his progress throughout the years, saving receipts, wrappers, and bags, and by keeping records and notebooks. You can't say he's not dedicated. In addition to all that, he's also a published author. His novel, 22,477 Big Macs, was released in 2008 and recounts his life's journey to become the Big Mac's #1 fan. The most surprising thing about all this isn't the fact that Gorski's eaten over 30,000 Big Macs, it's the fact that he's eaten 30,000 Big Macs and claims to be in perfect health. The world works in mysterious ways.
The Force will be with you.
Big Mac name-dropping in rap songs.
I'm gonna let you finish, but Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time.
Over the years, McDonald's has concocted several marketing schemes, and many of them were successful. A lot of this involved music in some way, shape, or form. For example, most people are familiar with at least a couple of McDonald's jingles. From I'm Lovin' It to the Big Mac jingle, they're unforgettable and instantly recognizable. You've probably had one stuck in your head at some point.
Yummy, 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 I got love in my tummy.
But apparently, having its own iconic jingles wasn't enough for McDonald's. In 2005, the company decided that it was time to delve deeper into the world of music, specifically rap music. Now, McDonald's wasn't going to be producing or recording any of the songs itself. The deal was that if established rappers name-dropped the Big Mac in a song, they would receive $5 from McDonald's every time that song was played on the radio. This isn't unheard of. Rappers like Kanye West and Busta Rhymes have made fortunes off of product placement in their songs. Nevertheless, this marketing ploy wasn't exactly the most successful of McDonald's advertisement campaigns and never really took off, which is a shame. Imagine the material Kanye could have come up with using the burger as inspiration. Truly a missed opportunity.
Try again.
History of the Big Mac special sauce.
You know, back before the war broke out, I was a saucier in San Antonio.
One of the key ingredients of the Big Mac is the special sauce. This seemingly simple condiment has a history as long and interesting as that of the Big Mac itself. Originally, it was known as secret sauce, and it wasn't until one of those previously mentioned jingles dropped in 1974. 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. You know it. It's not just the name that's changed. The recipe itself has been tweaked and updated over the years as well. At the time of the birth of the Big Mac, there were 2 different recipes for the sauce being used, each of them performing equally well. In 1972, the decision was made to combine elements from both versions to make the ultimate sauce. This was the recipe that was used until 1991, when the decision was made to shake things up a little bit. However, in 2004, the CEO decided to swap back to the original recipe. With all this talk about recipes, you might be wondering what actually goes into making the special sauce. Well, no one knew until 2012, when McDonald's finally let the cat out of the bag. The once secret list of ingredients includes mayo, sweet relish, yellow mustard, vinegar, garlic powder, onion powder, and paprika.
Now rub it in.
Another interesting fact about the famous condiment is that it's applied to each Big Mac with a specially calibrated dispenser, similar to a caulking gun, which ensures that the optimal amount of sauce is applied to each burger in a uniform fashion.
Out of burgers, boss! So get some more!
Big Mac. What's in a name?
I will name him George, and I will hug him and pet him.
A Big Mac by any other name would taste just as savory. The moniker is so famous that it's difficult to imagine the burger being called anything else, but it very nearly was. Back when the burger was young, the company experimented with many possible names, including Big Attraction, the Aristocrat, and Blue Ribbon Burger. Admittedly, not the greatest material. Before the burger was officially released, trial runs were held using the name the Aristocrat, and it wasn't well received at all. Since no one liked the name, the burger needed to be renamed, and the advertising team was forced to get back to the drawing board. However, they had a lot of trouble coming up with anything better. So how did the Big Mac get its name? It's all thanks to a woman named Esther Glickstein, who at the time was working as a secretary in the McDonald's advertising department. Her suggestion of the name Big Mac was initially laughed at by her superiors, which now looks a bit awkward for them. After all, here we are over 50 years later, and the name is known worldwide. Esther's story is pretty inspirational in that sense.
Respect!
The Big Mac Index.
Hamburger.
The fact that the Big Mac is a huge moneymaker for McDonald's is not at all surprising to hear. It's second only to fries in terms of sales and has been a hit since its creation. In 1969, a year after its public release, it was already generating almost 20% of McDonald's income. Due to its international popularity, The Economist created the Big Mac Index in 1986. The index was used to examine how market exchange rates can lead to goods being similarly priced in different countries, as well as to gauge the purchasing power parity between different currencies. It does so by using the price of a Big Mac as a reference point. It's purely informal, but still quite informative. The Big Mac Index has stood the test of time and is still in use today, and a quick internet search will give you a look at what's going on in the current economy. It's a bit more accessible than more formal reports for those of us who are less interested or well-versed in economic matters, as it presents the information in a fun and interesting but still educational way.
Laughing time is over.
We've got more than Big Macs on our menu, so stick around and click on another one of our great videos. And to find out how to become an official Babble Topper, click on the join link in the description below.